Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Impact Marketing Summit. I brought together some of the world's top marketing experts to share with you their new age marketing strategies and techniques that will literally change the way you perceive and implement marketing in your day-to-day business. My name is Vamsi Pannala, and right now I'm delighted to be speaking with Brendan Kelly. Brendan is a webinar copywriter who's known for writing webinars in as fast as 2 hours and helping clients earn thousands of dollars on their very first webinar presentation. He helped several beginners and million dollar earners craft and recraft their webinars so that they can profitably sell their products and services to the masses. Brendan, welcome to the summit.
Vamsi, what's going on, man? Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited to be here. I have something pretty unique for you guys today because this is something that I've been practicing for a long time, but it's something that I've never actually taught to the public. So this is brand new content. It's unscripted. But the process works and it works really well. So I'm excited to actually release it to you guys, for the first time in public. So
totally excited, Brendan.
Cool.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Sweet. So can I go? I'm ready to fire off.
Yes.
All right, let's do it.
All yours.
All right. So I took a pretty bold headline here for you and I said, how to sell anything to anyone at any given time using my backwards storytelling method that even a 10-year-old could pull off. Okay. And it's cool because this is pretty much on point, I'm going to be talking specifically, for those of you who don't know me, don't know what I do. What I do most days right now is write webinars. And arguably the most important thing about any webinar is your ability to storytell and tell not only the right stories, but include all of the right little pieces in there that are actually going to get people to believe the things you want them to believe and then convert into a sale, okay? Mm-hmm. So like I said, I've never presented this before, but I'm excited to because I've been doing this and implementing it the past several months, and it's really good stuff. So real quick, for those of you who don't know who I am, I am still pretty new to this game, a few years old, probably 2 to 3 years, been in the digital marketing space. I started on eBay and I sold all my parents' stuff out of their basement in eBay. And then I went over to Amazon and then I found funnels, and now I do webinars specifically. Yeah, most of the days right now, I am just a webinar copywriter. People come to me, and whether they have a webinar and they need it rewritten, or they have an idea that's, from scratch, they have a course or they have a high ticket product or service. I can write a webinar for all these different things and go and launch it off and hopefully get them a ton of sales selling to the mass market, right? Yeah, so I'm known for writing webinars in as little as 2 hours. That's one of my favorite things to do, is literally sit down with somebody and we can bust out the majority of a 2-hour webinar in literally 2 hours writing it. Like, we write it in the amount of time that it takes to actually present it, which is just insane. Sure. So yeah, I've worked with a bunch of 6- and 7-figure entrepreneurs and brought them through this process, and we've getting a ton of success. We're going to have hopefully a few people hitting the $1 million mark this year. So I'm excited. But for you guys who are out there and if you're really serious about selling your products and your services to the masses through whether it's a webinar or a VSL, this is going to be huge because it can literally transform the way that you tell your stories. Like for selling your products, but with some practice, like it can literally let you manipulate all of your conversations, non-business related and business related, so you can pretty much get your way and make people believe whatever you want them to all the time. Yeah. So I'm gonna go here and dive in for you guys. Okay, so by now, most of you probably know, if you've been in this space for any amount of time, that storytelling is like the most effective way to sell your products and services, right? Especially when you're on a webinar. We say all the time, facts tell, stories sell, right? Yeah. But the big problem is it's difficult to know what story that you should actually be telling in order to get those beliefs to change, get people to buy your stuff. Yeah. And it's even harder to tell what needs to go inside that story in order to get them to believe what you want them to, right? So you can go through dozens of different stories until you find the best one that hits. You could spend like 5-10 hours writing one single story and then test it and tweak it, and it still might not have the effect or sell the product that you want it to, okay? So that is obviously an issue, but thankfully, the storytelling method that I've discovered and I'm gonna share with you guys today, it will allow you to write the perfect story that will get your prospects and anybody else that you use this process on to believe just about anything that you want them to every single time, okay? Great. But before I show you guys exactly how this works, okay, I thought it would be fair if I just tell you how I discovered it, okay? Because I used to write stories probably a lot like everybody else who's watching does. And we would go through and we would start from the beginning, and write it out and try to sort of make these epiphanies and these beliefs change and, try to craft it along the way. After a while, I figured out that there is a much better way. Okay. So I'm going to tell you guys how I discovered it. One of my services that I actually provide is where I help clients write and pitch and optimize their webinars and sell their stuff to the masses, right? So like I said before, they come to me, they either have a webinar or they don't. And they say, hey, I need help with this. It's converting or it's not, or I want to start from scratch, turn this idea into a webinar. So one of my clients came to me and they had a webinar that was running weekly and it was doing okay. You know, it was making a handful of sales. It was making a few $1,000s a week. It wasn't bad. It was breaking even and making maybe a little bit of cash week to week, but it wasn't really doing great by any means. Okay. So he came to me and he's like, dude, I need your help. I have this amazing product. I have this amazing offer. You know, we have tons of success stories of people who have been killing it using the course, but I'm not selling a lot on the webinar and I really just don't get it. You know, I'm following the webinar structure perfectly. You know, I'm modeling it really well. I feel like the stories are well written, but people just don't seem to get it. Okay. And for me, this is like a golden client, right? Because what I do is I take a percentage of commission based on people's future sales. So somebody comes to me, let's say they're making $3,000 a month or whatever. Let's say we can get them to $30,000 a month. We take a percentage of that extra profit that we've made them, right? Really great model. So it helps when we don't actually have to start from scratch because we can work off something and it's usually pretty easy to fix them, you know, find the gaps and get them that result. So I was excited, you know, this was a great client for me. Like I said, I usually take an extra profit percentage after they work with me. So I figured, okay, we fill the hole in the webinar, fix it. It should be pretty quick and easy, and it should be a bunch of cash for months to come. So I was excited about it. I dove right in. I said, all right, let's do it. You know, he paid me all that stuff. So I watched the webinar, you know, I'm going through, I'm searching for the holes. And it was true. Everything he told me was true. He was getting plenty of targeted traffic. You know, people were showing up to the webinar. They were staying till the end, but for whatever reason, they just weren't buying. You know, it felt like everything was in place and working as it should, except for those sales. Okay. Mm-hmm. So usually what I do, naturally, I'm like, okay, you know what? It's probably just their offer. I bet you their offer sucks or something. So I go through and I looked at the offer and it was actually really good. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, well, maybe he doesn't have enough social proof. And I went back through and I looked and there was a lot of social proof, people that were really getting great results with the product. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't really figure out exactly what it was, but we made a handful of tweaks and we fired it off again. Okay. So this time it did a little bit better, but we still couldn't figure out why it wasn't really, really taking off. So I said, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put a survey on the back end of this after they actually watch the webinar, a survey that incentivizes people to tell us why they didn't buy. Okay. So that's what we did. And after they got off the webinar and they didn't buy, we said, okay, well, that's fine. You know, don't worry about it. No pressure, but we just want to know, like, why didn't you buy? We want to make this better. Right. And, you know, some people said, oh, well, it's too expensive or, you know, it's just not a good time for me. All these classic objections that we get. But the overwhelming majority goes back to exactly what he said to me when he said, listen, I just don't get it. I feel like they are not getting it. And basically the overwhelming majority of responses were saying, I just don't understand how this will help me. Okay. So that's when I had the little moment and I'm like, it seems like things aren't just aren't clicking for them, right? Like they just aren't having that epiphany moment. So I said, all right, let's take a look back. And I said, all right, let's look at the first big story that you tell, which introduces the idea that you're going to actually sell to them in the end. Okay. Mm-hmm. So for those of you who are familiar with Russell Brunson and the way he runs his webinars, the perfect webinar, this is the origin story. That's the first story and it introduces your big idea. Mm-hmm. So we went back, we rewrote this origin story and we spent, you know, another few $1,000s running traffic and getting people to show up. And can you guess what happened? It flopped. Okay. It didn't perform any better than the past ones did. And at this point, like I'm freaking out. I'm like, okay, I'm nervous because I really thought that was the answer. You know, I wasn't sure. I was nervous and he already hired me. He already paid me. I wasn't sure what was going on. I wasn't sure if I could really turn this thing around and make it profitable. I mean, obviously I wanted to help him because, you know, I wanted to get paid. But it was more about the money at this point because this is, you know, these are my services. This is my reputation. And I can't have people going around saying that, oh, I paid Brennan all this money and he couldn't even help me with my webinar when that's what he's exactly, you know, marketing himself as being able to do. Right. So I'm in a little bit of a panic at this point, but we decided to give it one last try. Okay. I said, all right, let's give it one last try. Let's rewrite this story again, the same exact story, but this time let's forget you. Let's just totally remove you from the story. And instead of telling your story, let's just write out the story that they need to hear, the story that's going to check all the boxes and change the beliefs that they need to hear and not even include you at all. So we made up this entire fake story. I said, okay, what is the ideal story that they need to hear in order to make that epiphany happen? So we did that, and we completely removed him from the story. And what we did, we wrote that story that we knew checked off all the boxes that they would need to hear in order to make that epiphany happen in their brain and finally make it click. And if you guys look at a story, there's a big structure, and basically there's all these little checkpoints, right? So that's what we did. We made sure we created this story that checked every single box, okay? And I'm gonna get to that in just a minute. I'm gonna show you guys how this process actually works, okay? But the more boxes you can check off, the more effective that story will become, okay?
Yeah.
So then afterwards, we went and we took that story and we filled in his experience according to the story that we made up, okay? So we literally wrote out an entire fake story. And then we said, okay, let's fill in the blanks and make this accurate with you and your story and your experiences, okay? And what most people do is they will do that piece first, and they will take their story and they'll tell the entire thing, and then they'll say, okay, how do we make this thing sort of sell? Now, we flipped it on its head and we did the exact opposite, where we wrote the story that we knew was going to sell, and then we filled in the blanks with our experiences.
Okay.
Does that make sense for you?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So, what we did, yeah, we filled it in, we changed that story. And basically in the last 4 months, boom, it finally clicked. We finally got it. And we were able to bring him from $3,000 a month to $35,000 a month in literally 4 months. And it's not like we did all this crazy stuff. We didn't, talk about all these, follow-up or the ads or the software or the back-end campaigns and all that stuff. All we did was change that one big story. And it was just insane because, that's what we were missing the entire time. It wasn't that the offer was bad. It wasn't that the ads were bad. It wasn't that the traffic was bad or the people weren't qualified or we had the wrong people coming in. It was just that they weren't clicking because of that one story, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So we brought them from $3,000 to $35,000 a month, and it is not stopping anytime soon, okay? It is still going up incrementally every single month. So it's really exciting. Like I said, this was pretty recently. So, I've been doing this for a long time, but I've never taught this concept. So it's cool to be able to see it in real time now. All right, so yeah, not only did he sell more stuff either, like it wasn't just right there and he stopped and it was like, okay, we're making all this money now. This became like his thing, right? This story became like his anchor. Like if you follow Russell, Russell's potato gun story, right? That's what he's known for. That's how he gets you to understand what a funnel is. So that's exactly what we did with this story for him, okay? So it became his thing. It became what he was known for. And he built a reputation around it. So now, like, whenever he's in Facebook groups and stuff, people will say, oh, well, who does this thing? And everybody calls out and tags him in comments and, like, that's his name, right? So he built an entire brand around this one thing that he didn't have before, all because we recrafted that story. It's insane.
Yeah.
Then there's all the back benefits, too. Like, okay, he's making all this money now, but all these other things happen. So he cuts back his hours of working. Now he doesn't have to go and grind and do so much marketing because literally he's making so much more money off of this webinar. He had more time for his wife and his kids and to do these things. So he went from working, 40, 50, 60 hours a week to maybe 10, 20. And it's crazy because all of this happened because we recrafted that one story, the ideal story. Okay. So I'm asking you guys on the summit here, do you want to know how to craft your ideal story? Of course you do, right? I'm going to warn you guys, please, 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 please be ethical with your storytelling, okay? Because like I said, the first step is to create that story that is going to sell. And I'm afraid that a lot of people are going to take this and they're going to stick with that story. But you have to make it accurate to your experiences. So please be ethical. Please use your morals. Please do not make anything up that you think will get you more sales just because you think it will get you more sales, because I promise it will bite you back later, okay?
Sure.
Oh, looks like I forgot to phone a bully. So here's the process, really. Step one, we're going to write out the epiphany that needs to happen in order to get them to believe your big idea. So if we're going back to the story that I just told you guys, basically it should be the epiphany that needs to happen is if I want my story to sell, then I need to write my ideal story first. Okay. I need to write it backwards. Another example here is if I drink a weight loss shake for lunch instead of eating a meal, I'll lose 5 pounds per week. Okay. So if you look at it here, whatever this thing is that they want, right? Lose 5 pounds per week. That's the thing they want.
Yeah.
And the epiphany that we want to happen is if they do our thing, right? So if I write my ideal story first, so it's really pretty easy. Just say, what do we actually want them to believe in order to sell our big idea, okay? So next, step two is write out the ideal story that's going to create that epiphany. Now, I modeled this process a little bit, and I've changed it quite a bit since, but I got this originally from Expert Secrets, Russell's book, and I know he got it from a bunch of other people. But for those of you who have the old version, it's on page 114. I know they just sent out the big box one. I don't know what page it's on now, but the Epiphany Bridge story, the original one, you can go check it out over there, okay?
Yeah.
I've changed up the process a little bit to this point, and I'm going to explain that to you guys now to make it a bit simpler, but just wanted to credit back. That's where it came from, okay?
Yeah.
So the first thing here we're going to do is meet them where they're at. This is the backstory. We want to start our stories with where the person is right now that's listening to it. We want to end it with where they want to be, okay? And then basically our story and our idea, our product is the bridge in the middle, okay? So going back to that story, I told you guys a somewhat broken up version of this process, okay? I used the process to tell that story of how I discovered it, okay? So I want to bring you guys back around and wrap a little bit and kind of just say, okay, let's go back and kind of look at the inside of that story a little bit. So meet them where they're at. So my client was struggling to sell stuff on his webinar, right? This is what they're struggling with. This is maybe where you guys might be at if you're watching this right now or listening. Maybe you have a webinar, maybe you don't, but either way, your stories are not selling as much as you want them to, okay? So the first step, meet them where they're at. Second step, what was their goal? And really, we should not make this really complex, okay? My goal for him was to get him more sales on his webinar. I'm going to go through and I'm going to use a couple more examples in a minute. I just want to go through the process here. So I call it the significance. I think Russell calls it the struggles, internal, external. Why is it important that they reach that goal? Okay, we want to put them in jeopardy a little bit. We need to know the whys that we can care about that person. Okay, so for me, if we go back, my goal is to get him more sales on his webinar. Why is it important to me that I get him more sales? Because I get paid a percentage based on the additional profits after we work together. So it'd be an easy win that pays out for months. Okay, that's why I want him to get that goal. So the wall, usually when things go bad, right? We rewrote that story and it failed, right? I said, okay, we wrote the story the first time and it totally flops. So at that point, it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? You're in jeopardy, right? Next thing, that's when I discovered or realized my big idea. This when I said to him, hey, what if we took you out of the story and we just wrote the story that we knew was going to convert, the story that we knew was going to create that epiphany. So that was the epiphany for me. The journey, like I like to call it, is the implementation of your epiphany, okay? So we did it. We went ahead and we wrote that story for him, removing him out of it. The goal hit. We used that story and we went from 3,000 to 35,000 per month. So what's significant here, and I'll show you in a second, is that we got our goal that we talked about in step 2. And I'll show you just a second. And then the hidden benefits, all the other cool stuff that happened because of it. He built an entire brand that he was known for after we changed the story, and he was referred to a bunch of people, you know, in the community, even people who did not buy after the webinar. Okay, so other examples here. I'm going to build these out right in front of you. Okay, so like others examples. Let's say we're selling weight loss shakes. Okay, meet them where they're at. The backstory. Hey, so you know, I was 30 pounds overweight. I was really just letting go of myself. You know, stuff was not going too well. Meeting them where they're at. The goal, selling weight loss shakes. I wanted to lose 5 pounds a week for the next 6 weeks, let's say. Boom, significance. Why did you want to do that? Because I wasn't feeling good about myself. You know, it really just, I wasn't comfortable in my own skin. You know, summer's coming. I want to get the beach body back, whatever it is. Okay. The wall. I remember I was actually going through this process with somebody once, and they said, I went to a Christmas party and I hadn't seen my dad in like 1 or 2 years. And the first thing he said to me was, oh my God, you've gotten fat, right? Like that's a wall for somebody. So what you want to do there is you want to talk about how it made you feel. So at that point, like she was like, oh my God, I was just so embarrassed the entire time I was there with the rest of my family. At that point, I was like, okay, something's got to change. The epiphany. And that's when I put my stake in the ground and I said, I'm changing. I don't care. I'm going to figure out what it is. Absolutely. And in the process, I discovered these weight loss shakes. Okay. Let's just assume that's what we're selling.
Yeah.
I discovered these weight loss shakes. So I started drinking one every day for lunch. And, this is the journey here. Number 6, I started drinking one every day for lunch. And then boom, after 6 weeks, I lost 5 pounds a week. I hit that goal. I did exactly what I wanted to, despite, all my efforts before and all the hidden benefits. I feel better about myself. My relationship's better. My family's better. I'm making more money. All these other things are going better in my life. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you see how you have this quick template here? And when you just kind of say, hey, backstory, where are they at now? Goal, what is the thing that they want? Why is it important? I'm going to show you a good way in a second just to figure out what these answers actually are. I'm going to go through real quick and just give you the webinars example now.
Yeah.
I want to sell somebody. Let's say somebody was, selling on a video, not a video, how about a long form sales letter, and I want to convince them that a webinar is the way they should be selling their thing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So a course creator who is currently using a long form sales letter.
Okay.
That story might look like, I had this big course and I spent months and months and months making it, and it was huge, and I knew it was going to change people's lives. And I hired a copywriter, and we wrote this long form sales letter, and I paid him 10 grand. And basically, it was a huge investment of my time and energy. My goal, I really, really wanted to get this course to sell because I knew it was going to change a lot of people's lives. Okay. The significance, why do you want to hit the goal? I kind of just said it. I knew it was going to change a lot of people's lives. I put so much time and energy into it, and I'd be just so upset if it actually flopped. So we got it all together. We wrote the sales letter, and boom, we hit the wall. I spent 10 grand. I hired the guy, and it flopped, right? The sales letter did not work. That's when I found Brendan, and he told me, whoa, why are you selling your course through a video, through a long form sales letter? What you need is a webinar. So he went, I hired him, number 6 here, the journey, and he wrote me a webinar. And then boom, right after that, it worked. It went well. We hit our goal. Number 7, I made 10K a month or whatever it is. And number 8, all these other hidden benefits, right? So the hidden benefits, I usually like to relate back to health, wealth, and relationships.
Yeah.
So wealth, obviously the goal hit, we're making 10K a month or whatever it is now.
Yeah.
Talk about your health, right? So now I'm not stressing about money anymore. I'm not stressing about if this is going to work or not, so I can get better sleep. I got my time back because I'm making more money, so I could spend time with my family and my kids and do the things that I want to. My health, I can hit the gym now because I'm not trying to figure out how to make this course sell for the rest of my life. So that's it. And if you just have these steps in front of you and you kind of reverse engineer that story, you can really tell any story you want to, and it should work just like that. Okay. Yeah. Now the thing is, this all works only on one condition. Okay. And the condition is that you actually know your avatar better than you know themselves. And I know that a lot of people struggle with this piece because they don't know. They're like, okay, I know who my avatar is. Maybe it's entrepreneurial moms, or maybe it's, network marketers who are struggling, or maybe it's, people who are struggling to sell their course and they need a webinar, right? So they might know it to that piece, but they don't know how to actually plug in all the answers to this stuff, okay, to these 1 through 8 here. So what I want to do is show you guys how we can actually do that. So how can we get these people to actually answer all the questions and fill in the ideal story? One thing right now, if you're going in and you're just saying, okay, well, the backstory is this, and what I just did is I made all these assumptions. Okay, I assume this person's using a long form sales letter. Mm-hmm. I assumed that they wanted this goal. They want to make this revenue amount. I assumed that they were failing in this way, right? Now, what we have to do is we have to go and talk to our ideal customer and our avatar and get those assumptions that we've created either validated or falsified. And either one is okay, because we're going to get results that tell us exactly what story we do actually need to tell. Okay. So the best way to do this is usually through a survey. So the way I do it usually is I'll put it on, if I'm running a webinar, it'll be on the thank you page after the registration. So people sign up. And, they put in their email, they put in their phone number, their name, and all that stuff. And they say, okay, I'm going to go to your webinar later this week, right? So then I give them a survey on the thank you page. And it literally has them fill in all of these questions for me. And it says I'm literally making them write the story for me. And this is super cool because then we can make no mistakes. So if we have the overwhelming majority of people saying, hey, where are you at right now in terms of X? They might say, oh, well, I'm at this revenue point. I've been trying this stuff and it's not really working, right? Now we know exactly what story we need to tell. Exactly. And then we say, hey, what's your big goal when it comes to, webinars? Mm-hmm. So, well, my big goal is to hit this revenue amount, or it's just to break even, or to build my list, or it's this, right? Mm-hmm. But let's say I have, 1, 2, 3, 400 people coming through a webinar, and they all hit the thank you page. Usually about half of the people will actually fill this out. Okay. So you can get hundreds of people who are coming into the webinar. You can get data on them before they actually see your pitch. So they will fill in all of these things, and these are all the check boxes that you need to hit, which is super cool. Because then you can make no mistake, and you literally just fill in the blanks for them. They've already told you how to pitch them. what story to tell. Okay.
Yeah.
So why is it important that you reach that goal, right?
Yeah.
All these things, I've just turned them into questions so that you can actually go and, literally put this in a survey and do it yourselves. The
Yeah.
epiphany is your thing. The journey is implementing your thing. And those things, they don't really have to have questions, but, significance. What have you tried in the past and what was the result, right? Oh, I tried this, this, and this, and I failed. That sucks, but now we know exactly what to say in the story.
Yeah.
The goal hit. I would be super happy if blank. Hidden benefits. What does your life look like after blank? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the format. And like for people watching, you can screenshot this, go put it in a survey, and literally have your potential clients and prospects and customers tell you exactly how to pitch them, which is super cool.
Yeah.
So recap, guys, real quick, getting to the end here. So get to know your avatar. Number one, use that survey data that I just gave you guys, okay? Step two, write that epiphany that needs to happen, okay? Write it down. What is the epiphany that they actually need to go through? What is that aha moment in their head? Is it, oh my God, if I ever want to, sell my course, I need to have a webinar?
Yeah.
Or is it, oh, that if I ever want my stories to sell, I need to use the ideal story? Or is it that if I ever want to lose weight, I have to drink these shakes once a week for lunch or whatever, right?
Exactly.
Write down that epiphany, because what you're going to do is go back and check after you've written the story. And you can say, okay, does this actually fulfill my epiphany? Okay, so after that story is written, you go back and you say, okay, that epiphany that needs to happen, does this ideal story fulfill that epiphany? And if it does, you're in the right spot.
Yeah.
After that, write that ideal story, that actually creates the epiphany, like I just said. And then number four, you're going to fill in your experiences in order to make that story accurate. I can't stress this enough. Like I said, you do not want to just start making things up and, telling stories that are flat out loud. Because you're going to get yourself in trouble. It's going to bite you back later.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the process. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much. If you guys want to find me later, Facebook, just look me up, Brendan Kelly. It should pop up. Instagram, Brendan Kelly Official. Websites and services. If you want to check out any of my storytelling stuff, check out my lead magnets, my webinar conversions, or if you need webinar help, I have a few different services. Like I said, we can go through, write that webinar in 2 hours. We do long form webinars that sell courses from like $497 to $1497. And we also do high ticket webinars that sell your products and services, programs and services from like 5K to 25K, whatever it is. If you guys have any questions about this, you want to email me, go ahead right there, brendan@bkellyprofits.com. And also, I didn't put it on here, but I have a podcast. It's called What the Funnel, and I publish on there occasionally too, so you can go check that out.
Great.
That's it though. I hope that was super, hopefully it was valuable and eye-opening to some people, because like I said, I've never really taught it, but I feel like that's a cool process that not a lot of people really think and like see that angle of storytelling. But when you reverse engineer it that way, really you can make sure that that story actually tells and does what you want it to do.
So one of the things that I always believe with my little experience in marketing is that frameworks are evergreen, right? So what you taught today to a lot of people who are watching it right now is a framework, right? So it's all about personalizing it to what they are doing, who their audience are, who their customer avatar is, what product they are selling. So if they can just understand and put themselves into the framework that you have put in, Brendan, I think their webinars will become perfect. There will be more value that they can give to their customers. And in return, their customers who are also going to buy their products are going to get a lot of value. So that's exactly what I wanted to convey. I mean, what you mentioned about is the framework, right? So everyone, I think, when it comes to a lot of people, each one of them have created their own perfect webinar, some other versions of it, right? So you also tweaked it based on what you felt will probably work for your client, and probably this may work for the next set of clients that you're going to work. So, but these are all frameworks that we are talking about, right? So and so that's essentially what I thought. The best part is when I sit in the other side of this screen, I tend to learn, and with my little experience in marketing, as I mentioned, I get to understand what you guys are talking. So it's really nice to hear certain things like this, because it gives people an opportunity to change what probably is not working for them, because I'm sure a lot of people might be using a perfect webinar script, but that may or may not be giving them the kind of results that they want. So if now they have a new framework to go and implement it in their webinar, so that way they have a new thing to kind of sit down, do rewrite the entire webinar and see if this is going to work. And if this is going to work, their results are going to skyrocket like what you got for your client. So I truly appreciate your time for coming on the summit and sharing it, something which is very new. We have never put out in public before, so I'm sure this is great value for a lot of people who are watching it right now. So I really thank you for being on the summit and truly making it what it is actually made for, just value and nothing else.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you too for bringing me on. And one last thing I want to mention too is you had a great point there. You can really use this. Um, you could use this 10 years ago. You could use this 10 years from now. It's just basically human psychology and the way it works. But what's cool for this perspective too is it's not just evergreen, but it works across all spectrums of marketing. So you can not only use this in your webinars and your storytelling, but you can use this in your emails, right? If you're crafting out an email,
Yeah.
you can have this next to you, like right behind your desk, and say, okay, where are they at right now? And literally use it to tell this story the exact same way. So, emails, if you're talking to people, you can use this talking to your parents and your girlfriend, your wife, or whatever, and get these ideas across. So it's really cool. And once you kind of have this framework in your head, like you mentioned, you can use it off the fly. I can pretty much tell any story I want to, just kind of using this process now, just because I practiced it. But yeah, for those of you who are out there and maybe you have a webinar that's not converting or something, go back and review those stories and implement this process. And like I said, if you're running traffic, go and put that survey in, because they will literally feed you exactly what you need to say in order to sell them, which is really cool. But yeah, man, thank you so much for having me on. I really think it's pretty cool, and I hope that the audience gets a lot of value out of it. So I appreciate you, and I hope we talk soon.
Absolutely. So you just presented on what your first point was, about storytelling, right? So it's not like you tell any random story, give it a structure to it, and it will be a hit.
Mm-hmm.
So great. Thank you so much once again, Brendan. I'll not hold you much longer. Pleasure to have you on my summit, and hope to see you on the other side.
Appreciate you, Vanzi. Thank you. Talk soon.